Welcome everybody to another Community Fit and my favorite class of the week, Reset and Restore. And April is all about nervous system work. So that's what we're going to do today. For those of you who are joining us again, welcome back. And for those of you that may be new to Community Fit, welcome. And if you're new to this class in particular, I just like to say at the top of the hour, this is sort of a class slash course. Why? Because in order to reset and restore, when we're working with nervous system, when we're working with tension, when we're working with things like rest and rejuvenation, there isn't a one size fits all protocol. So instead, we have a little bit of discussion about what to look for, how to use some of this information, a library of tools, practices, and choices for you to pick from, and then opportunities for you to sort of check in and check out and discern and determine what is working best for you. So this is a class in particular. Please use the chat function if you have questions, comments, concerns as they come up, or afterwards, drop them in. If there is a particular area of interest, whether it's nervous system work, and if you're like, I don't even know what nervous system work is, think stress, overwhelm, trauma, dissociation, all of that. Now's your opportunity to kind of drop it in. And then as we explore over the next few months, next month, in this course being physical tension, which will again be more nervous system work, because guess what? Physical tension is the manifestation of nervous system tension in the body. And then in June, we're going to transition to rest and all of the different ways that we kind of look at rest. Today's class is going to yet again be a continuation of some of the work that we've been exploring and playing with over the last couple of weeks. So if you're new, welcome, you're going to get caught up. And then we're going to expand on that. We're going to continue with a lot of what we've done so far is what would be considered self-regulation, or in Instagram and TikTok world, self-care. We're also going to move into some auto-regulation stuff today, and how are we using our environment to regulate our nervous system. So without further ado, let's get started. This is a class you get to choose all of the things. Where do you want to sit? Go ahead and choose wherever it is. And if you're feeling extraordinarily anxious or kind of unsettled or just out of place, well, let's start with some really intense nervous system work and go change where you're at. It's truly that simple. If you're picking up on some sort of vibe in the room, and it doesn't even have to be sensical, right? It could just be like, I got my back to the door and I don't like it. Well, turn to face the door, change the environment, change the room you're in. That's going to be tip number one, is when you are feeling uncomfortable, um, out of ease in the environment, one of the best things you can do for your nervous system is pick yourself up and move environments. Meaning you could go for a walk, you could change the room you're in, you can just change your orientation within the room. We all have that experience of just going, even if it's a familiar room, going like, I'm just feeling not at ease in this space today. And what it is your nervous system is picking up on information that you are not explicitly picking up on, meaning you're seeing things, you're hearing things, you're sensing things in the space that is not normally there. Um, yeah, so we have in our chat right now is, as someone who is neurodivergent, this person often has to change their location when they're experiencing too much sensory overload. Exactly, exactly. So it's one of those neurodivergent superpowers, right? Is being able to notice when there's too much information. And for so many typical nervous systems, uh, we don't really notice that as much. And we're not noticing it as it's happening, but it's happening nonetheless. So if you have ever felt like overstimulated or depleted after being somewhere, it's because you weren't paying attention. You hadn't been given the tools or the permission or even known what to look for within your nervous system. So maybe explore right now. Like if I wasn't facing the camera, if I wasn't teaching you, like as I'm saying that, I would literally probably turn like this. Like that feels so much better for me right now because there's a window that's open. I can see the door. I can look at my dog. So just make a little adjustment as needed. Then let's get started. What are you noticing in your body right now? Does something feel good? Does something not feel good? What information is coming in through your feet? What are they touching? What are they being squished by? How do you know you're sitting in the chair you're sitting in? How do you know you're wearing the clothing you're wearing? Like if you weren't physically looking at it, what information is coming in through the texture of the clothing? What's the temperature in the room right now? What breezes are coming in or not? What sounds are there? What's the physical experience you're having right now? Then, what is the cognitive experience? What's the thought body experiencing right now? Are you anxious? Are you thinking about something? Are you here? Are you resistant? Are you curious? Where is that? And then the emotional body, the vibe of the moment. Are you settled? Are you anxious? Are you feeling loved or the opposite of that? Just kind of checking in, getting that experience within the body. Now, we're going to go back to something we explored in week number 1, and that's the blue and red areas of the body. If you weren't here on week number 1, don't worry. We're going to walk you through it. If you were here on week number 1, you're like, oh, I remember that practice, and hopefully you've been practicing that practice, go ahead and start. For the rest of us, here's the invitation. I invite you right now to notice somewhere in your body, whether that's thought body, emotional body, or physical body, that feels exceptionally spacious or feels exceptionally good, feels exceptionally loved, comfortable, whatever experience you would really enjoy having right now, feels exceptionally secure. Define that however you'd like. Now, start looking in your body. Could be here, could be here, could be in the physical body. Anything that we've sort of talked about thus far. How do you know you're having that experience? I'm going to just pick one, right? So let's say it feels spacious. I would like an area that feels exceptionally spacious. And so I'm going to talk you through my experience so that maybe it can lead you to your own, right? Like you're not trying to have the same experience I'm having, you're having your own. But I'm looking for spaciousness. So somewhere in my body right now, as I close my eyes and I look for spaciousness, I feel really spacious in my chest today. And not the outside of my chest, but like behind my ribs inside of my body. Now, how do I know that? Well, the experience of spaciousness for me today feels um, bigger than my physical body. If I'm in that space, it feels like I'm much bigger than I know my physical body is. It feels calm. Like if I was to get a visual going, it would feel like a nice beach, like waves coming in and out, which is a visual I gravitate towards. It feels cool in a pleasant way. I enjoy being there. So you can define that in a number of ways. What we're talking about here is felt sense. You're not trying to be cognitive about it, right? Like you can see it was like, oh, it's kind of beachy and cool and I like it and it's like inviting and feels kind of big, but not like super big, right? It's not like a logical sentence. It's pulling bits and pieces. There's a felt sense. Doesn't make sense. I can feel something within that. So whatever feeling you're looking to have, wherever you've located in your body as a pleasant thing, how do you know that that's pleasant? What you're doing is quite literally creating vocabulary. I call it interpersonal communication. You are creating a language to understand your inside, your interoceptive experience. Now, the invitation next is where in your body feels the opposite of that feeling. So if I was going to talk you through my experience. I was looking for spaciousness. I defined what spaciousness feels like for me today and where it is. And if I'm to go, where's the opposite of that in my body? Right now, I would say it is the outside ridge of my right foot, in between the fourth and the fifth toe, in the middle of that. And that feels like it's lacking spaciousness. It feels tight. It feels painful. It feels like the color red. It feels difficult for me to embody and be there. Like I don't want to be there. How do you know? What is that feeling that you're feeling? Yeah, we have someone says that one is much easier to find. Yeah, we are quite literally designed to notice things that are unpleasant or painful because our impetus is to avoid those things. But that avoiding of those sensations is part of what leads to nervous system dysregulation. We don't want to perseverate or get stuck in that. We also don't want to avoid it. So just noticing it and then go back to the first feeling in that first space and then go back to the second space. And so I am swinging, toggling. The official word is pendulating between the two experiences. And that first experience, whether it's spacious, it's pleasant, it's good, it's supported, it's whatever it is, we'll call that area blue. And the other area, the one that feels the opposite of the first area, is your red area. Neither one is better or worse. You're just acknowledging, oh, I can have a blue area and I can have the red area. And I'm swinging between. And how long can I be in between? Like if the visual is like I'm swinging on a swing set, maybe I swing and there's like a pause before I swing back, and then I can come back here and I can pause in that sensation. And then I can swing forward and maybe I can stall there. I can pause a little bit longer before I swing back. And right now it might be really didactic, right? Like I have to look for that area and then I have to look for that area. But when you practice, because I know you're going to practice, it becomes more organic and your attention swings you from one to the next. Now, our commenter here of that one is much easier to find, the bad area, that is not uncommon. So if you are having this ability to pendulate, please by all means stay there. That is the practice we're doing right now. If you are someone who's like, I, for the love of everything, cannot find a blue area, I can find the red area. I can find the thing that I don't want to be experiencing right now, but I cannot find the blue area. Let's talk a little bit about that. So notice the red area. And then maybe just start looking around the room. And notice something in the room that looks especially interesting. Maybe it looks beautiful. Maybe you just have a sentimental feel about it. Maybe it's a photo, a picture, a dog, a beautiful tree outside, someone you love, whatever it is. I don't know what that area is for you. I don't know where that is in your room, but you're just kind of noticing it. And then pendulate back to the red area. Be there for a bit and then pendulate back to the blue area that is now outside of you, right? It's that orientation practice and just noticing something in the room. Now, that might work for some of you. Or the reason we've done tools over the last few weeks is to get us to here. So all of those lists of tools we've been covering, explore one of those and then go back to the red area. For those people just joining us, I'm going to teach you a few. One of them being the physiological sigh. Inhale, inhale, exhale. Double inhale followed by single exhale. I do one of those, and then I go back to the red area. And then maybe I look for a blue area somewhere. Do I feel spacious? Do I feel any different? Nope. Okay. Physiological sigh. Red area. What's going on there? Oh, for me, that just kind of opened up a little bit. And maybe I can now come and find a different blue area. Or maybe I need to do an orientation or a physiological sigh. Now, let's say neither the physiological sigh nor the orientation worked for you. Well, you can go into tapping. It can be this. It can be this. Before tapping, we just did holding. Could just be a sigh. And then I notice a red area, or I notice the blue area, or I pendulate between them, or I pendulate between an activity and a red area. I hope you're seeing the theme. We're not, um, often when we're stressed, what's happened is something is occurring in the space in our life that is triggering that stress response, spiking up that stress fever. And then we either do one or two things. We dissociate and avoid the red areas of our life, whether that's physically in the body, thought in the body, or emotional, or we become hyper vigilant to the thing. We go into protection of the physical body, or protection of that emotional body, or protection of the thoughts. We start thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking, or we fully dissociate, which only dysregulates the nervous system more. Ideally, a healthy nervous system has the ability to hold both as true. I have red areas and I have blue areas, and I can spend a little time in both. And when we create the capacity for that, which is super simple and not at all easy, when we create the capacity for that, that is when the nervous system organically starts to notice red, notice blue, notice red, notice blue. So as we continue along with the practices today, you now have the point of it all. The point of it all is being self-aware enough to have a felt experience, noticing, oh, what are some things I like and what are some things I don't like here? Noticing the complexity and the ambiguity of it all, something humans are just not good at doing. We like clarity, we like order, complexity and ambiguity. How do you spell pendulating? Pendulating is Pendulating. Pendulation, pendulating. So we're noticing these things, and then we have tools to help us disrupt either the disembodied thing that we often do or the hypervigilant thing that we like to do. So what we're trying to do is disrupt the natural tendency to either dissociate or get hypervigilant. And the way we do that is embodiment, noticing things in the body and having some tools to help. So as we continue to explore and play today, that is what we're trying to do. And the rest of today is all about giving you tools in order to help with that pendulation process. And yes, we have another comment, like a pendulum. We're noticing that in the body and what tool sets work really well for you, because not everyone is going to have the same tool sets, and it would be a good idea to have one or two that work really well for you. We've already covered a few. You can go into that physiological side, you can go into the orientation practice or tapping. Some other things that might be really helpful. And again, I'm not going to be as explicit as we go on today. What I would expect you to do with this is become self-aware, try the practice, and then notice inside of your body, what do the blue and the red areas look like? How am I experiencing those? How well am I able to pendulate? What is the overall experience? How is what I'm doing changing how I'm experiencing aliveness in the moment? So, continuing forward, some more practices that we have not covered over the last few weeks include the following. So, number one, humming, being really, really, really permissive with that hum. We did sort of a VOO breath the other week, but just and then getting curious. What happens if I hum lower or open mouth versus what happens if I hum higher pitched? Maybe the inspiration here is like a bee or a mosquito or some sort of high pitched violin note. And again, none of them are right, none of them are wrong. It's just options and choices. Spend a little time playing with that. Humming, different frequencies. Now, here's what I and my clients have found true. The higher pitched hums really help even outside of nervous system regulation with things like balance. It's bringing awareness up into and moving some stuff in your inner ear and up in the top of your head. So if you are someone who struggles with balance issues, falling, walking, so on and so forth, maybe practicing that higher pitched hum, could be something worthwhile in investing, not just for nervous system regulation, but also for balance. The lower pitched hum is really good for like a grounding thing. It's sort of in somatic experiencing, we would call it sort of a returning home sound. So it really sort of settles things. And that's generally what clients have reported. Here's the thing, and why I say I'm just giving you options and choices. For several of you, that's going to be very, very true. And there's going to be some of you out there who that's just absolutely not true. It's just how we're set up based on the experiences. But trying the humming thing might work for some of you. Now, moving on. Really interestingly, the tongue and the movement of the tongue has so much to do with tension that we carry in the throat and the jaw, which we'll be covering next month. But it has a direct effect on nervous system regulation in a positive way. So, here are some things that you may want to try. So, do your check in and then try this. It can be as simple as taking and sticking out your tongue, moving your tongue around, moving your tongue around with your mouth closed, doing tricks with your tongue, any sort of tongue movement. And if you're someone who likes something a little more protocoled, a little more structured, give this one a try. Keeping the mouth closed, start to draw as big of a circle as you can with your tongue, painting the inside of your mouth, like the lips, the cheeks. I can't talk and do this, but here we go. Works really fun with allergies, but keep going and then reverse direction. Coupled into that, it could also be as simple as puffing up your cheeks and doing that and pretending like you're swishing around water. Take an inventory. Some of you probably didn't like that at all. Some of you probably, if I'm now to check in, I can feel I'm much more aware of my face and the top of my body. I feel a calmness in my face, and I can feel a little more unsettled in my gut. Like that feels like, oh, I don't know if I really like that. Maybe, but I'm to get technical with it. It's like, ah, James, you just did that on camera, and that was kind of weird looking. And so now my body is letting me know that's really vulnerable. That's a vulnerable thing to be doing. So there's a lot of interplay in all of this, and what is good for the nervous system, what creates more vulnerability, and how do we toggle between those? Now, moving on, back to that auto regulation and being in the room and in the space. Hopefully, some of you picked up and moved to a different location. Here's one that works really, really well that can be done pretty much anywhere, anytime. And if you're someone who works at a computer as a routine job, I would highly recommend something like this. Sitting in your chair, start to turn your head to look over your right shoulder. Use your arms, use your whole body to turn around. Feel your hips move and look for something behind you. Take in an inhale. Exhale, feel your hips come back, sit in the chair, feel the spine twist, and the head comes back to center. Then go the opposite direction. There's a twist, and a twist, and a breathe. And a coming back. Do one or two or a lot more to each side. Just kind of notice when you come back, what is that pendulation like? What are you noticing? Doing a little check-in. I'm going to walk you through what I'm now feeling. I am feeling an automatic need to go into that lateral sway thing that we do in this class and in Move Lab, which is sort of like a resettling of the nervous system. This is something a healthy nervous system actually really likes to do, is rocking right and left. I'm now very aware of the sounds of birds outside, very aware of the space, very aware of where my feet are in the space. And then settling. How did that work for you? What did you like or not like within all of those? Now, moving on to some more auto regulations. Auto regulation is something that all of us do. You are so familiar with it. I guarantee you do it every single day. And you just didn't know it is what you just didn't know that that's what it was called. When I generally start working with groups, talking to them about, well, what do you do when you're stressed? What's your coping mechanism? What do you do? Often people will say, well, I have a glass of wine, or I um, go outside, or I put on a funny show, I read a book, whatever those are all auto regulation activities. And what auto regulation means is I choose to do something external that has some sort of effect on what it is I'm feeling. Now, here's what I want to end with in all of this today. Often within auto-regulation, we are picking strategies that do not have a long-term return on investment. They are something that in the immediate action, either most often helps us dissociate from what it is we're feeling, or at least pulls us out of hypervigilance. And often they are things that are not beneficial long-term. While wine and alcohol altogether has a lot of benefits, and I'm not here to say pro or con, if your only strategy for dealing with stress is wine, that's a problem. What happens when wine's not there, right? If your only strategy for dealing with stress, overwhelm, trauma is a TV show, what happens when you don't have access to that? It's just not on the air. If your only access to stress relief is going outside for a walk, what happens when the weather is unconducive for that, or you're in the middle of a meeting? So I want us to be really conscious of the choices we're making and creating a library of stress reset tools. You now have a bunch for that self-regulation. When you're watching a show, what is it that you're actually consuming there? Is it something that has a positive impact on the nervous system? You know, across the board, you can watch whatever you want to watch. There's reasons and good stuff. I'm not here to um, uh, discern what it is you do and don't watch. But if you're stressed and you turn on something that causes more stress, how is that impacting the nervous system? If you go for a walk and it's all about getting your steps in and going and exercising, that's no longer a nervous system work. If the book you're reading is a workbook, maybe that isn't the best decision. So just being really, really, really conscious of auto-regulation and how we're choosing environments and how that is conducive to a regulated nervous system or not. How do you know? Red, blue, checking in. I'm going to watch this thing and I'm going to check in. I'm going to do this thing and I'm going to check in. So I'll stick around for some questions. I see I've got some comments percolating up. I will be here again next week for the last of this series of Move Lab and Stress Reset. Then in April, we just switch, same exact everything, we just switch gears. So next month, like I said, we'll be working on physical stress, but we have one more installment of nervous system explicit work. So thank you all so much. I'll stick around. If you have any questions, I'm going to see what you guys wrote in here. Yep, going for sweets. That's a big one. Mindless rom-coms. Cannot watch horror or action when I'm already stressed. Exactly. Something I started experimenting with too is not looking at my cell phone before bed, not from like a blue light perspective or anything. It was just like it was too much input. And I switched to reading, but I can't read work things. It has to be like fiction stuff. And when I do that, I sleep so much better. These classes get better and better. Thank you so much. Well, thank you guys so much. We have a question. Purpose of going from red to blue is to reduce the red. No, not necessarily, Cami. Purpose of red and blue is to be with the red and the blue. And just notice, if your body chooses to reduce the red, change the red, if something organically happens, great. But I think sometimes if it's setting at it with the intention of like moving away from stress and pain, and then that doesn't happen, it causes more stress and pain. What we're choosing to do is be present with what is going on. Where is the recording for this? Alicia is out. Raymond, if you have any input on recording, this recording will not be up for a while. So probably several weeks to a month. Is that accurate, Raymond, if you're still available?
Yes, sorry. Just to chime in, we're having a little bit of backlog on uploading. That's basically the holdup there. So our plan is to basically, once we kind of finish the session or get near the finish, we will slowly start uploading all the videos. So that way, once we have it all uploaded, we will then send everybody who has signed up for this session an email saying, hey, here's the playlist on YouTube. And then now you're able to watch everything from day one till the last day.
Perfect. So I'm assuming then that means sometime in like June.
Yes, our plan is to hopefully do it basically by the end of the session, where
Okay.
everything will be uploaded. So that way, by the time we upload everything, we should be ready to go within, let's say, when this ends on a Friday,
Cool.
Monday, we should be ready to go. That's
Cool.
the hope.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Raymond. So to answer the question for you then, this series will end at the end of June. So anticipate that everything will be uploaded, recorded, and tidied up as a package ready to go end of June, beginning of July. Okay, everyone. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye.